everyone, welcome back to the Support the Spectrum channel. Today we're talking about the 10th video I ever made online. I made it with my little cousin and her cat. Here it is, and it is about communicative functions. Communicative functions are the purpose behind communicating. So we might say anything, right? But there's a reason why you're saying that. Maybe you're requesting, protesting, maybe you're trying to direct the actions of others, maybe you're asking for help. These reasons behind why you're communicating are important for speech language pathologists to know and to note if we're doing language samples to see if clients are performing all communicative functions and if they are a well-rounded speaker. Or I should say well-rounded communicator, because we don't always have to speak and use our voice to communicate these things. I really stick by the video me and my cousin made. It provides a ton of communicative functions. There are two that I intentionally left out: initiating and maintaining conversations. And I did that because I made a separate video on it. It's a very important topic when we're talking about neurodiversity support. So we'll talk about that later. Please come back to see that video. So as always, this channel is about neurodiversity support to neurodivergent care practices. This video, though, could be used by any speech language pathologist, any clinician, anybody teaching someone language, like a caregiver or a loved one, because we're talking about communicative functions. And the main point that I want to drive home with this video today is when we are teaching language, we cannot only focus on teaching requesting. We cannot model I want, I need only. This happens way more often than you think. We get so hung up on having our learners express their wants and needs, which are so important, don't get me wrong. But when we are teaching someone language, we have to teach them to use their voice for everything. And of course, on a day-to-day, us speakers do use our voice to express our wants and needs, but really think about it. Think about what you use your language for throughout the day. Don't you use it to joke with your friends, tell stories to your friends, express deeper things than just what you want and need? Of course you do. So we should absolutely be modeling that language and teaching learners that language as well. And especially make sure that that language is programmed into their AAC systems so that they are able to use language for what motivates them beyond what they want or need. So real quick, I'll run down the list of communicative functions we demonstrated in our video. We had requesting, actions or items, protesting, actions or items, labeling, meaning labeling things around you, water bottle, gaining attention, greeting and parting, saying hi and bye, commenting, saying things like I like it, I don't like it, that's far, that's cool, stuff like that. Scripting. So this is something we see a lot in the neurodivergent community, but we also see it with neurotypical or any neurotype as well. When we are quoting or referencing different things in the media, referencing memes, quoting memes, scripting movies, stuff like that. Very important communicative function to relate to others, to express your point through art. It's an awesome way to connect with someone who is neurodivergent and get that language that they like to produce out. Expressing feelings, directing the actions of others, apologizing, expanding on an idea, complaining, using strategies when misunderstood, like clarifying questions, joking, telling stories, expressing interest, playing with words and sounds. And then, like I said, the initiating and maintaining conversations was in another video. But this is a very well-rounded list of communicative functions. It could be argued that there are more. I'm sure there are some that I didn't get. But if you as a speech language pathologist were to use this list when you are taking language samples and categorizing utterances, I would say that you have a very well-rounded list and you're doing a good job. So yes, going back to this idea that sometimes as language teachers, we create requesting monsters, right? It can so easily happen. I especially saw it happen a lot when I was working in the school because we needed those non-speaking, minimally speaking people to express their wants and needs so that we can understand them and help them in so many situations. So it makes sense that we put priority on those sentence strips types of language. I want, I need, I see, I hear, that kind of stuff. The seeing and hearing is commenting, but it makes sense that we focus on that type of language. But it's one thing to track data on that language, having a requesting goal. Sure, you can absolutely do that. But does that mean that you shouldn't model other communicative functions? Absolutely not. You should always be modeling a variety of communicative functions because that is how real people communicate. We are not robots going around all day saying, I want water, I want snack, I want sleep, I want lights off, stuff like that. It's just so robotic, like I said. It doesn't truly exemplify what the communication experience of being a human being is. Also, one of my favorite goals to use when working with someone who is non-speaking, minimally speaking, and someone who is a Gestalt language processor in stage 1 is this person, client, will use XYZ communicative function with XYZ utterances in treatment session, an hour a week for so many weeks. The communicative function that I target is one that is emerging. So let's say that you are working with a non-speaking, minimally speaking client, and they are pointing to things when they need help, and they're taking you to something when they need help. I consider that an emerging skill. That is an emerging communicative function of requesting help. So if I was writing a goal for them to track data, I would say client will request help using XYZ amount of phrases that I will model that expectations for many, many months before placing demand on them. Check out those videos if you're learning about how to place demand, and they will do it in our sessions for however many weeks. So the point of targeting a communicative function that's emerging is because then that is an achievable goal. They're already on their way. They already have that motivation to communicate those things. And those nonverbal communication behaviors, like taking someone to something or pointing, are extremely valid. We will honor those every time, but we will also model the language with it. So, without expectations. So, the learner hears that language every single time, and eventually it'll start to click. Man, it'll just be easier if I use my AAC system to hit that help me thing rather than taking someone all the way to the other side of the room. That is one way to target a emerging communicative function, and it is something that I take very seriously when I am in goal development, considering the variety of communicative functions in someone's repertoire. And why is that? Because that is the human experience. And why is that? Because I don't want to create requesting monsters. And why is that? Because I want to target communicative skills that that person is already demonstrating in whatever way. Another super important communicative function is protesting. I love teaching protesting. I know that caregivers hate to see me coming because when I get in treatment session with a client and I teach them, I do not like, I do not want, the caregivers start hearing that later, hearing the client using that later and be like, oh, you taught them how to say I don't like. That happens all the time when eating, and they suddenly say to their caregiver, I do not like that. And they're like, where the heck did you learn that? Well, they learned it from Miss Ryann. Because I know that is not something that we always want to hear from clients, especially if you're trying to get them to try on new foods. But it is a form of self-advocacy. It's protesting, right? And it's so essential. They have to be able to tell people, I do not like that. I do not want that. That is not okay. Go away. Stop it. Those are things that I sure as heck model to my clients all the time. And when it comes to clients who are using AAC, specifically speech generating devices, I will have a folder specifically for no. It is a no folder. You go into it and it has all those negations. I do not want, I do not like, I do not have, it's not working, go away, leave me alone. Those things are all under the no folder, and it is extremely important to me that every person learns how to communicate those things. And they're very motivating, so they pick up on it a lot. And in the same way, I will also create a yes folder that has more positive commenting, accepting types of language. I like it. Another one. I want that one. Stuff like that. Just a quick tangent. If you're ever in need of consultation services for a client, maybe you just need someone to bounce ideas off of, or I don't know, just need support, please feel free to contact me. I hold consultation sessions. They are pay what you can, pay what you think I deserve, pay what you financially can afford. Times are really tough, and I understand that. And my goal is to try to help as many people as possible, whether you're a caregiver or a clinician, anyone who is in need of support when supporting a loved one or themselves, if you're an adult or someone who is in the working or school positions who needs accommodations, please contact me. It's on my website, support-the-spectrum.com. And I do think that wraps it up for today. That's everything I feel I could say about communicative functions. They're so important for speech language pathologists to track. They're so important to model to limited speaking, minimally speaking, or non-speaking people learning language. They're so important to model to people who don't feel that they have a voice. Do you know what I mean? There are many speaking people who don't see their caregivers or people in their life using a variety of language, or don't feel encouraged to use a variety of language and advocate for themselves, tell their stories, joke and play with language. And so that's something to keep in mind. If you have an impressionable person around you, model all different types of language, encourage all different types of language, because my goodness, what would life be like if we didn't have that? But thank you so much for taking the time to sit and listen with me today. I always appreciate it. Again, you can contact me about consultation sessions or about topics that you would like me to make a long form video about. Please subscribe if you're interested in learning more about speech language pathology and specifically neurodivergent support. And I will see you next time.